So in this week's video, we are going to talk about a job that many of us have found ourselves holding, but that we never asked for, never wanted, never even applied for. And that job is making sure that another grown-ass adult that you are in a relationship or close friendship with or whatever behaves like an adult. Now, since behaving like an adult can be highly subjective, what I mean by an adult is someone who is accountable for their actions, someone who owns their stuff, whether it be good or bad, someone who treats you and others with respect and kindness and decency, someone who has integrity and is honest with you, someone who does not try to manipulate you or invalidate your feelings constantly, or who treats you like you should be honored to have them around, somebody who doesn't play games with you or your emotions, because games are for children. There's plenty more I could say here, but I think you get what I mean, right? Those are not just very basic things that adults do. They are a fundamental part of being a decent human of any age. And truly, they're not all that hard. But yet, for some people, it is so much easier said than done. And being in a relationship with someone who has not figured all of this out, either because they're just not there yet, or the more common reason, because they simply don't want to do it, can be utterly exhausting. So, in case it was not crystal clear from the thumbnail, here is what this message should be for you. A reminder that you are not a rehabilitation center for poorly raised adults. You are not a rehab for broken adults either. And that might sound kind of harsh, but look, there are some folks out here, friends, who cannot hold their stuff together unless they are constantly borrowing someone else's glue. Know what I mean? And while everyone goes through difficult times in life sometimes, when somebody's going through it all of the time, seemingly, and they are not even trying to participate in their own rescue, they are doing nothing at all to try to help themselves, well, then the more you try to help them sometimes, the more you end up just being walked all over. Sad, but true. Anyway, first, let's talk about how you got here, to this place where you may find yourself in a relationship with someone where you're doing all of the work and making all of the effort, and you are not getting anything good in return. If you are getting anything at all, it looks more like contempt or disrespect, or being taken for granted, or being someone's emotional punching bag. Too often, people, especially those who are kind, nurturing, or just naturally responsible folks, end up becoming unpaid therapists, emotional babysitters, and moral compasses for other adults who, for whatever reason, aren't functioning as respectful, emotionally intelligent people. Sometimes it's caused by having only bad examples of adulting around them as children. Sometimes it's traumatic things in their past that they haven't healed from. Sometimes it's a misguided sense of entitlement that the world owes them something. Whatever the reason, those issues are on that person, not you, to fix. You didn't sign up to be anyone's emotional custodian. You aren't a trauma processing plant. You are not here to heal someone's wounds from their parents or their exes or whoever in their family that hurt them. None of that stuff is your fault. And whose fault it is actually the least relevant part of this, because at the end of the day, everyone is responsible for themselves. There is only so much you can blame on some external force, because you realize that this is just a pile of excuses. I mean, sure, you might have had something traumatic happen to you, or have this hurdle or that hurdle, but so does everybody else. Nobody's life is a cakewalk every single day, where you have no worries or responsibilities, unless maybe you are a cat that lives in this house. Stuff happens in people's lives, that's the point, and people that you love pass away, you struggle with mental illnesses, you lose opportunities, you get sick, whatever. That is just how life is. You can choose to keep it moving anyway and keep going forward, or you can let those things turn you into a bitter person that is constantly bleeding on people who didn't cut you, proverbially speaking. I hate to say it, but a lot of people choose that last option. People who lack emotional maturity or who move through the world without ever healing from the things that damage them often gravitate towards those who they can sense is a fixer or a helper. Somebody who believes in potential because they equate that with being weak. People who are egotistical and exhibit narcissistic traits will often gravitate towards people who they sense have poor self-esteem because they feel they are easy and won't demand much in the way of effort or even respect. And people who are manipulative and overly controlling will gravitate to people who are empathic and compassionate because they see them as easier to push around and, you guessed it, control. The strange thing about being the manager of that rehab, so to speak, is that sometimes you don't even know it's happening until it's pretty late in the game. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Actually, I'll give you 5 of them. Number 1, you're constantly explaining basic human decency. Things like, it's not okay to yell at me, or I deserve to be listened to, or it's not okay to keep invalidating my feelings. Shouldn't need a TED Talk to explain. This is something that is part of just treating others with respect, okay? You feel drained after interacting with them. Not just tired, drained, like your soul has been emptied by some kind of energy vampire. You make excuses for their behavior to others. They didn't mean it that way, or they've been through a lot, so you have to excuse them. Sound familiar? You're doing the emotional labor of 2 people. You're managing your emotions and theirs like you're playing therapist while also trying to hold it together. That is a lot. And finally, they never apologize, just deflect, because accountability is a foreign territory. Instead, you get excuses or whataboutisms, or worse, silence. Nothing about this kind of relationship or friendship, because it can definitely happen in those 2. Sounds fun, right? It sounds terrible, actually, and exhausting. So why do so many of us stick around? Why do we continue to give energy vampires our most precious commodity in life, something that you cannot get back once it's gone? Our time. Because we live in a world where we are constantly taught that love means sacrifice, that caring for someone means helping them become better even if it makes us get worse, that we are bad or selfish if we set boundaries. Maybe you grew up around chaos and learned to manage other people's moods before you could even read. Maybe you had to parent your parents. Maybe you got praised all the time for being the mature one, the helper, the peacemaker. But listen, being a good person does not ever require self-abandonment. You can be kind without being a doormat. You can be understanding without tolerating disrespect. And you can be compassionate without being consumed. So, what can you do about this? How can we navigate what is probably a very complicated network of things that tie you to another person, and still not neglect our own needs while we are terribly busy taking care of theirs? Well, you can start by setting boundaries without apology. You don't need to justify why you need to have peace and not have to take care of everything or listen or handle everybody else's business all the time. That is not only healthy, friends, it's necessary. You can learn that no is not just an answer, it is also a complete sentence. You cannot stop over-explaining that no. Or you can stop over-explaining that no as well, rather. Grown adults should understand that no means no. That I'm not comfortable with that, or this doesn't work for me, is not a sign to push you harder to do those things. If they don't understand and respect that, then another conversation needs to take place about why none of this is okay and why you're not going to continue to tolerate it. Remember that you teach people how to treat you and what you will accept. Another thing you can do, let consequences happen. If they want to still act a fool, let them. Let them deal with the fallout from that, too, themselves. If they want to refuse to grow, then let them stay stagnant. And if they want to continuously take your kindness and willingness to help them for granted, then let them experience what it feels like when you don't lift a finger for them at all anymore. That isn't being a jerk or being cruel. It's being realistic. And finally, all that energy that you're spending on them and trying to make them better, redirect that inwards. You've spent enough time being everybody else's safety net. Sometimes you need to yank that net away because you need it in order to keep yourself safe. You're not cold-hearted for protecting your peace. You're not mean for expecting respect. And you're not obligated to carry the emotional weight of someone else who refuses to deal with it. There is no shame in taking care of your needs whatsoever. There's no reason to feel guilty either. Remember, if you don't take care of you, then who will, right? That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.